Before we get into the video, please consider subscribing, liking, and clicking the Discord link down below. Lots of cool stuff going on down there as we basically talk about nerd stuff and whatever else. That said, enjoy. What's up everyone, Gojin the Makai Phantom approaching ya. So lately I've been playing this 2017 Square Enix game, Nier Automata, and I gotta say, it's just as phenomenal as everyone has had it out to be. So originally, I was gonna do a video making fun of the morons claiming the new Dead Space remake is woke over stupid shit. For example, like the new actress being older, or simply spotting something as minor as a non-gender bathroom. Like, if you think anything, people like Synthetic Man would be happy since the world he has a place where he can touch whoever the fuck he wants. But I didn't do that video because while I personally have a crazy interest in Dead Space, I loved the demo and I got access to it on my Xbox as we speak, but I still haven't played enough through it entirely yet, so I don't think I can do it the justice other channels have. So I took the next step and decided there's lots of people making stupid complaints about the Nier Automata TV series, all because anime fans can't stand the use of CGI the same way they can't take real women. But on my journey for a video on that topic, I came by these gems of a video. But there's not one, but two contrarian views we're gonna be trashing on today, because both of these videos were so bad, I genuinely didn't know which one I wanted to make fun of. So fuck it, let's tackle both of these morons. Welcome to this week's episode of Deconstructing Insane Nonsense Online.
Nier Automata. This game enjoys widespread appraisal.
First of all, it's a video game. It can't enjoy appraisal any more than your girl can an orgasm. But Gojin, he's foreign! Look, I don't care if he's trapped in some third world country with his only moneymaker being his mouth on a group of 5 dicks for the price of a used product at GameStop that's been touched more than his penis and an Arby's beef sandwich. But that's just a little present after these guys finish violating his asshole.
Every single other figure in the game, including every machine life form, from small to big, everything and everyone looks bad. Their design is oversimplified and have a dumbed down, watered down look in general.
Okay, he doesn't add up to this point here, he just makes the claim and then moves on to his next. So let's take a moment to deconstruct this particular statement. Just like the first three, they have realistic gestures, their faces aren't overly pixelated, and they overall blend in with the rest of the environments. But even if they were simplified, who cares? By that point, it's just an art style. Yeah, they're a bit dated now, but look at how many years ago 2017 was. And remember the fact what you're playing is an open world game. So some details will be below others.
Your adversaries, the machine life forms, are generally these rusty barrels with a ball on top for a head, with 2 dots for eyes. This general description fits them all. The first thing that came into my mind when I first saw them was that they look exactly like these Wetling wind-up toys from the late 80s. I was pretty sure that they had them in mind in order to later sell these as merch. We saw examples of this before. Whole animes designed around the concept of the merch it wants to sell. Cards, figurines, spinning tops, the collectible stuff. Beyblade, Bakugan, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Digimon, just to name a few.
First of all, this isn't the animes. This is a video game with a pretty realistic art style. The reason why the droids look like that isn't to sell figures. It's to work with the magical otherworldly vibe the game has in mind. Listen to the soundtrack and tell me you'd expect anything here to look like your mom. But even if Yoko Taro was trying to sell toys, outside of the dildo he fucked your mom with, is it really a bad thing? I said this better in my video, Is Tokusatsu Really for Kids? Link is in the description down below for the full thing. The cutesiness is an art style. These have nothing to do with the graphics, and the fact you bring up stuff like the rusty details only adds to them looking good. Nice job playing yourself, though it's not like anybody else will, so...
Stages and the settings. Again, overly simplified, run down, watered down, featureless. Every single house is the same concrete block. These concrete blocks don't even have rooms in them. The developers didn't even care to make them believable. They don't give the impression that these buildings were once lived in. They don't even have staircases or gates for that matter.
Okay, first of all, this takes place at an old rundown world that came so long after humanity, our leads don't even know much about it. So everything being destroyed and run down works very much in the game's favor. Also, you're wrong. There are steps in the buildings. How about playing the fucking game before making this claim? But you're still not talking about the graphics, because in terms of those, the details on said buildings are sharp. There's broken down cracks on the inside and out. And walking into one, you'll notice piles of rubble on the ground. The lack of color in them is there for a touch of age to give off the impression how long it's been. This isn't a foreign concept once you look at how crumbled down cities are portrayed in even the Bible. Really just piles of concrete laying around. What you're looking at here is a post-apocalyptic world that still happens to carry its own beauty. Civilization might be destroyed, but the world hasn't. Nature has taken over where the cities are kinda like a forest with everything mankind has built kinda just turning into caves. And that's only diving into the buildings. From the outside, you got the desert with the sand under your feet hitting the camera, or underwater cities where walking through those puddles will reflect off your outfit and skin. The list goes on, but this isn't my review, so I'll spare you the details till that time comes. And there's gates too, because again, if you actually played the game and not just spreading a load of horse shit to be quirky, you'll know that's wrong by simple exploration.
This is where I have to mention. There are certain indents in these blocks, but practically even these geometries are non-existent. They are conveniently blocked with everyone's favorite video game trope, the invisible wall. If there is a thing in video games that makes me feel taken for a drooling idiot, is the invisible walls. Even when the environment would strongly suggest that you can go in a certain direction, you often find that actually you cannot. They didn't bother to put some visual blockade into these parts to convey the idea that the path is blocked. Hitting these invisible walls, for example, halfway down a stairs, immediately kills the immersion, and I find myself having a shitty experience playing a bad game.
Oh, if you feel that way about invisible walls, just wait till you watch this video. Yes, invisible walls are a tad annoying, and it certainly would be preferred to add a visible blockage there to avoid wasting your time. But that's a nitpick at best, because in the grand scheme of things, the whole problem is you waste a second or two walking into something you originally would skim past. There is nothing you'll say that can convince me invisible walls are anything more than a minor convenience. But then again, maybe invisible walls are so touchy for him, since those are the only ones he's going between.
The visuals are repetitive. The aforementioned buildings and the machine life forms that you find everywhere are looking the exact same.
Yeah, it's a post-apocalyptic world with a specific set of robots made. These aren't people. You don't have different races for certain areas across the world. Now, this would be a valid complaint if we only had one type of droid throughout the game, but there's multiple, and some, like the explosive ones who charge towards you, aren't even all that common. Imagine turning on Halo and crying about every level fighting the Covenant.
Throughout the whole open world, the vegetation consists of the same small trees, big trees, bushes, and grass, and that is it.
Oh, that is bullshit, and you know it. That's why he's using pics here instead of footage. It isn't for copyright reasons, that's why he's only using footage for the stuff he can add to his points, like the invisible walls. Because just a few seconds of roaming around will prove that statement about the vegetation wrong.
In the department of visual assets, the game is lacking, and the atmosphere of it suffers from this fact.
Oh, don't tell me he's using the copied city as an example of blandness. That is the one place that lacks color, and that's the fucking point. It's supposed to be this Matrix-like realm with little to no life besides Adam and Eve. It's nothing but a world made out of crystallized silicone to mimic what life was when humans existed. Adam made this to develop his knowledge since he was fascinated by humanity, so it makes sense it won't carry the same life as a city when we enter the outside world. Not that you know what the outside world is like. Basically, it's a digital replica, and that's its charm. The world is surreal and adds to this atmosphere of the game since it's so mysterious. While we live in this world Adam is attempting to understand, we ourselves are trying to uncover the mystery of what happened to civilization. So we're put in 2B's perspective of curiosity and wonder, since this is the closest she's seen to past civilization. The gray color scheme only adds to that otherworldly aesthetic, and it's only featured here and on the ship through the stylistic lenses. This isn't a graphical issue, you just don't like a lot of decisions Yoko Taro made to have the game stand out. The vast majority of your arguments that aren't nitpicks are so preferential. Anybody who clicks this review isn't gonna be turned off by them because they're likely gonna see this as beautiful. And if they already decided that they didn't like how the game looked, they weren't gonna buy it no matter what you said because it's not their cup of tea. Anybody can see a clip and be like, this isn't my cup of tea, and leave it at that. But it doesn't make these flaws. It simply means your preference wasn't in mind when developing this game. A rule of critique everyone should follow is every piece of art is made with their own checklist. What one artist's goal is might not meet the same as another, and that's okay. What makes Nier good isn't what makes Doom good. What makes Ghost of Tsushima good isn't what makes Mortal Kombat good. And again, that's okay. Either you're willing to judge every piece on their own merits, or you're picky about your video games, and frankly, you should either stick to your lane or don't review them at all.
Plenty of moving parts act independently. Dust, sparks, smoke, bullets, but the frame rate never drops below a silky smooth 60 FPS. What's my problem with that? My problem with it is that whenever I play, the fans of the PS4 sound like a hairdryer.
Oh no, he fucking didn't. My man is unironically complaining about a game running so smooth, the PlayStation needs to make a tiny little noise to properly run it. To be fair, I'm playing this on my PlayStation 5, so I don't have that extremely minute problem. But I still have a PS4, and I can confirm his claim of Nier being the only game to do that is...
Filth and lies!
That is a sign your PlayStation 4 is getting hot, and chances are it's either dusty, the vents are blocked, or the game is very powerful, which sounds like the case here. If this is the only game you've experienced this with, well, I'm sorry, that is a positive over literally any other game you popped in your console. If you want to complain about anything, buy a PS4 Pro or a PlayStation 5, because you won't have this with future titles.
Graphically heavier games like Bloodborne or Horizon, they don't do this. The only reasonable answer could be that the developers didn't care to optimize the game either.
Well, first off, Bloodborne is not graphically heavier, and neither is Horizon Zero Dawn. Look at this comparison, and it's as clear as day which one's older. Second, Bloodborne is a Souls-like, so it's not fast-paced to the same level as Nier Automata, considering you're always on the move here with hordes of enemies coming your way.
The fighting system is incredibly dumb. It is watered down to the extremes. If you ever played a beat-em-up, hack-and-slash game, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I've played Devil May Cry, Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, and Ghost of Tsushima, just to name a few, and I have no fucking clue what you're on about.
Most of the story is told through the conversations and thoughts of the protagonists.
Well, no shit.
In a dialogue menu, you often see that some choices are represented in scrolling text, the other is spoken. It is incredibly undemanding. From Japanese games, we also got used to reading a lot of text. This is prominent here, and not just because the wordiness of the dialogues. A lot of the story is actually told this way. A video game is supposed to be an interactive medium. If I wanted a story told through written text, I'd rather read a book.
Hey, why ain't you running?
Well, I can't read.
Well, first step is you'd have to learn to read, and we all know you can't do that. Again, you are going on about your preference and not objective quality. I'm playing the game in Japanese, so I have to read throughout, which is normal for me since I hate dub, but I would prefer every line to have a voice. since in my opinion, a voice brings more immersion, especially as someone with ADHD. But I'm not gonna criticize it for making a creative choice I personally didn't care for. Not to mention 99% of the time, at the very least, it's only the side mission that make you have to fucking read. So you're literally just complaining about having to read extra content.
The thing that annoyed me the most in this game is the boss fights. The uninspired design shines in these repetitive, tedious, unrewarding sections.
I don't think it means what you think it means.
Jesus Christ, stop using big words to seem smarter than you really are. Just because you throw uninspired around to discredit the game's quality doesn't make it so. Anybody can do this exact same review with any form of media, regardless how good or bad it is.
A lot of the bosses are actually just variations of this laser ball thing. A big ball with a laser eye. These balls are solo or attached to each other in a certain way, and that's it.
I debunked this point myself, but just fucking wait, he destroys his own argument with his choice of edits.
Each boss has a life meter. You beat it down to like 2% and then a pre-scripted cutscene plays out.
Wait a minute!
Oh, no, 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 no.
You can never ever deliver the lethal blow. Never finish what you started the way you wanted to, or any way for that matter.
You're talking like this is some bullshit Sony pulls like in God of War Ragnarok. It literally cuts to that when they're on their last legs, and the whole point of that is to keep the cutscenes and gameplay feeling like one whole experience.
They rob you of the feeling of accomplishment and the satisfaction you worked hard for.
I mean, you did the very same thing to your parents when you made this video, yet nobody is shitting on you for that. Oh wait, we are, never mind.
They say this is a very long game. If you play all of it from beginning all the way to the end, there is a 100 hours worth in it. But this 100 hours consists of what? Well, not the long and meaningful story, no. This is desperately forced so-called replay value.
Yes, you heard that right, ladies and gentlemen. My man is literally over here complaining that a game offers more content for your money's worth. What the fuck am I watching?
You finish, you receive the message that it isn't over yet. You have to play it through a second time as the Android 9S this time. You play through the same story all over again with slight alterations. You get a couple new cutscenes, you get to learn a little bit more about the story, but the whole thing is mostly the same. After you finish this, you get to play it for the third time. The third time it is more robots, more repetitions, more tedious, more hard.
The whole point of 9's story is him and 2B are completely different characters with different abilities. So there's stuff 9S has access to, she does not. And pretty much every level has some form of difference, rather it be the hacking and the bits of new story. Not to mention the first and last levels, 9S was doing his own thing, thus a completely new experience is brought. And don't even get me started on A2. Hers is all original, and the fact you claim it's tedious tells me all I need to know about your lack of critical skills.
A lot of missions are all about to get from this place to that place. How would you do this in an open world game where the distances are long and you supposedly have access to a transport system? You would quick travel, right? Not in this game. The machines attack your saving points at the most convenient of times, rendering them unavailable to you. What you end up having is a defunct quick travel system. This effectively makes you travel the whole distance to your destination on foot, consuming those precious gameplay hours.
Holy shit, I'm starting to feel like a broken record at this point. That's a game design choice, not a mishap. Yoko Taro wanted the player to power up and unlock this feat, so it feels more like an accomplishment when you got it. If that's not your preference, fair enough, but let's not act like it's worthy of criticizing the game for.
On the way, you encounter the aforementioned random hordes of machines, giving you the opportunity to do everyone's favorite gaming trope, grinding.
But I don't like this.
Then why did you ask for it?
Yeah, It's a part of an RPG experience. You explore the open world, battle enemies, pick shit up, then you upgrade your character and buy more shit.
Leveling up, on the other hand, makes no practical sense whatsoever. The enemies are always gonna be a couple levels above your current level, making these fights the exact same skill level each time.
Okay, what purpose does upgrading have? Well, first of all, some side quests you can't touch until later in the game, or else they're gonna raw dog your ass harder than his pet poodle. Second, yeah, the big threats will always be above or on your level, but to catch up to them, you need to upgrade. This shit was even in Doom, it's not just an RPG thing. Most games don't upgrade you to be this OP powerhouse in the main missions. You do it to keep up with what it'll throw your way later, and overpower some goons that are weaker than you. Which you still get droids that are only like level 12 or whatever. Let's not pretend otherwise.
Transhumanism is strong in this title. Everyone in the game is a machine. The main protagonist, 2B, at the beginning, mentions that emotions are forbidden for androids. Despite this, every machine in the game, including our rusty barrels, are portrayed very human-like and deeply emotional. The emotionless narrative collapses within minutes, right at the beginning. It seeks to bring about your emotions towards these lifeless things depicted in the story, ultimately making you just a bit more transhumanist. You are supposed to cry over some spilt milk and broken toasters here and there.
Droids are used as a tool for bringing out the emotion in society. In fact, it could very much serve as a commentary on how Japan expects one to hold in their hardship, basically turning society into droids. But in the story, they're very much alive. That's why they learn to feel. We get it. One morning you tried playing with your little penis and realized it couldn't work, you grieved, and now you're coping by trashing on this game for PTSD.
I recommend this game for hardcore anime and JRPG fans. They might find some kicks in it.
What does anime have to do with it? I'm sorry, it just gets under my skin losers on both sides say every fucking game with an Asian cast is anime, even though the art style is fairly realistic. At most, the people just look like real individuals cosplaying as anime characters with the makeup and slightly clean look. Even Final Fantasy these days leans more towards realistic people with the exception of certain anime touches like spiky hair and slight simplifications on the face. Just send these people off to North Korea and they'll be like, oh my god, the anime is real, only for Kim Jong-un to shoot their ass. Now, in terms of recommending it to fans of JRPGs, I'll allow it. Obviously, there's other genres intertwined, but that is one of them featured in the game. And hey, at least you're recommending it to somebody who has the right to review the game, since you're clearly not the target audience. Anyway, that was fucking bollocks, but hey, at least he didn't act like his garbage take was fat. Holy shit! Yeah, we got another video on our shoulders today, and this one, believe it or not, is even worse. Not because his points are any dumber, that's kinda impossible when you're at the bottom. Well, this guy's definitely a bottom in more ways than one, but you get what I mean. Alongside his retarded arguments, he genuinely throws a tantrum about Nier's success because it didn't suit his special needs. Before getting into this video, I skimmed through his channel to see if I could find a face behind the clown to make up, and while I didn't get that, I found something even funnier.
If you've listened to Common Filth or any number of other podcasts and talk shows, you'll notice that women are so degenerate at this point. They're having sex with dogs, they're engaging in puppy play, they're dressing like men, they're getting injected with hormones, they're just having sex with random illegal immigrants.
Did my man just watch My Life as fucking Inukai's dog? And as he stroked his cock to it, he was like, yeah, this is how women behave. I mean, maybe they'd take doggy dick with the three amigos before they let whatever the fuck you are touch them, but that's a different story. This video is already up there in length, so without further ado, let's get right into this nonsense.
Nier Automata is one of the worst games ever made, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. At least that's what I would say if I ever did pretend it wasn't.
And we begin the review with a forced Joker reference. Yay! Reason I take issue with this is the fact he had to even point out he never pretended it was, just tells me it adds nothing to your review. And this guy has the nerve to complain about Nier wasting your time.
The only real thought I have as to why people like this, other than the fact that it's pretentious and it makes you feel big-brained.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there. If anybody used the term pretentious in any form of criticism, you lost all credibility. The term is just an easy way for people to write off a piece of media that focuses on complex topics through its story and characters without diving into how it does those topics badly. It does not belong in art critique because it's easy word salad anybody can throw around and make it out like they're saying something, but in reality, they're going into nothing. You can say Gogeta is pretentious, you can call Citizen Kane pretentious, you can call Ikiru or a Clockwork Orange pretentious, because you're not saying anything of value.
Is people say, oh, well, 2B's hot and she triggered SJWs and feminists, and that's really about it. And is that me being a straw manning people? Probably, but I don't really care.
If you knew you're straw manning, why the fuck did you keep it in the video? This only makes you look bad because once again, you just said a whole lot of nothing, wasting everybody's time. And yes, 2B and A2 are fucking gorgeous, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't remove their skirts over half the time I played. But that's not the core appeal of the game. Everyone is drawn to the astonishing post-apocalyptic world, our cast of characters, learning to adapt to it, and learning more about themselves. The variety of genres blended into one game, and the soundtrack that complements the atmosphere. 2B's amazing ass is simply a bonus. Now your mom's is a completely different story.
It's just bad. It's something that, like I said, I can't think of a single redeemable characteristic about this game. And that could just be me. As you guys know, I'm not the best at following plots.
That's understandable. May I suggest some reading Rainbow and the Teletubbies? I think you'll find them quite to your liking, sir.
And people might say, well, Arjun, you didn't get like the 26 different endings. You needed to get to like ending 6. But that's like bullshit, and that's an excuse. A game shouldn't have like 30 different endings to get like the basic gist of what the hell is even going on.
Oh, there is a lot to unpack here. If a game offers that many to understand the story, what's wrong with having that little award if the developers wanted to provide deeper reasons to return to their game? It's like watching a complex story that requires extra thinking and more viewings to fully get what's going on. 2. You do not have to get that many endings to understand it. You just have to beat the 3 campaigns to gather everyone else's perspective. Everything else is simply for fun, just like your mom's ass on a Saturday night after Papa went out to get milk.
I'm sure there's some people who like that, but I don't. And I guess people could say, well, Arjun, they don't play the game if this isn't your thing. Yeah, but this thing got so many awards. This isn't some, like, really obscure niche thing.
I can't believe I'm repeating this, but it won those awards because the developers all had a vision and they fucking nailed everything in an objective point of view. It's like if a gay porno won multiple awards. Just because it doesn't suit my preferences doesn't mean I'm gonna make an entire video bitching about it. You can have an unpopular opinion. I've got many. But in this case, you're making a review for those who likely aren't gonna play it anyway. And those who are just gonna criticize you.
Like, a lot of people don't like the Souls games, and those are obscure and niche. They or at least they were kind of designed that way, and they just kind of became a big thing and kind of blew up. But I don't really consider them to be a mass market thing.
What does designed that way even mean, and why should it matter? Are you saying if Miyazaki had the general audience in mind, that would make them any less good? Not to mention, if Elden Ring is anything to go by, it is not niche, considering how it bitched God of War Ragnarok at the awards. At this point, it just sounds like you're petty because the general audience loved a game that didn't suit your interests. Shouldn't that be a good thing? But then again, this is the same guy who likes Gods of Egypt.
They're really weird, the plot doesn't make any sense, that kind of thing, but the gameplay is very solid, despite the many bugs and balancing issues.
And just like that, I'm already convinced you want an easy mode in Dark Souls if you see issue in its get good gameplay.
So the plot to this game doesn't really make any sense. So this is like in the future. Apparently this is a sequel to something. It's a sequel to the original Nier. I'd never heard of it. I never played it. And maybe that's my fault for not digging up the old game and figuring out what went on. I'm not really sure how relevant it would and how much it would help me understand this, but supposedly humans live on the moon or some starbase or something, and they've created androids whose purpose is to go to...
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Could you get any more boring? I mean, it doesn't help we're just staring at an image while you sit your ass at your computer jerking on your baby dick, giving us the most shallow, uninformed summary you could come up with without having any cuts in between. Also, you don't have to explain every single fucking event that happened. You're supposed to either go through every necessary scene with clips, like the Nostalgia Critic, or condense it in a few sentences.
But I couldn't follow this game after, like, the opening level.
Welcome to the RPG genre. I personally think if you're looking for something up your alley, ABC Mouse has exactly what you're looking for. Not a Yoko Taro game. He makes stuff for adults.
And I just replayed this game like a month or two ago, and I still have no idea what the basics of the, like, plot and story were until I read the wiki, and I can't really recall any of that stuff happening in the context of the game.
And whose fault is that? Nier is the type of game, both on a story and gameplay perspective, that requires you to think and pay close attention to figure things out. If you're more into a simple, condensed story, then that exists. I never agreed with the whole complex means better mentality for that reason.
I kind of like how 9S is obviously in love with 2B, but she just kind of, like, shoves him off and just kind of friend zones him constantly. That's kind of funny, but it does kind of irritate me that the only male android is kind of a wuss.
Uh-oh, I'm sensing PTSD. Don't have any idea where you got that. If you paid close attention throughout the game, 9S already had an understanding of how androids think and feel. That is thanks to his high intellect and hacking abilities. 2B hides her emotions because she was created with the mindset droids shouldn't feel, so throughout, she denies her emotions and treats everything in a stoic manner. But whenever things get serious, her feelings begin to slip out, and one way to get that to happen is putting 9S in danger. She's interested in him and protective of him as a result. Their feelings are mutual.
Like that they didn't make, like, some kind of Chad, like, Aryan android who could, like, kick ass and was like a bruiser or was like a commando or something. Because this is just like, it's supposed to have sexploitation, but it even fails at that.
Oh, shut the fuck up. What are you wanting him to do? Grab her ass, fondle her tits, and be like, yeah, feel something, bitch?
I just don't like it, and it's not mainstream, and it shouldn't be treated as a mainstream game.
Who the fuck do you think you are to decide what's mainstream or not? You could literally catch this dude at the back of a KFC blowing some guy's ass out, and he'd be like,
I am not gay.
This is 4K! How did they get you at 4K?
That ain't me.
And that brings us to, like, the combat. This has some of the worst, most boring, repetitive combat I've ever seen. It's just literally dodge, mash buttons, dodge, mash buttons.
as dumb as your other criticisms are, the one thing you cannot criticize Nier for is being repetitive. You literally got a variety of side quests where you're basically doing something different each time. And even in the main game, where it likes to switch up between genres, whether it be hack and slash RPG stuff, arcade shooter, visual novel, or simply giving the player a different goal to work towards. Yeah, you're doing a lot of the same thing in the basic sense, but every piece of media is gonna have you repeating stuff in some shape or form to establish its formula. Nier, on the other hand, mixes things up way more than the vast majority of other video games, unless you complain about grinding through the mostly open world. But is that really fair? It's not something you have to do, it only benefits you. And even then, you still come across multiple different sets of enemies that require their own tactics. Not to mention, if you're gonna criticize Nier for that, you might as well bitch about 99% of open world designs.
And the pod really doesn't make any sense, because you have to hold down a button to fire, but it's hard to hold down the button while you're doing the other stuff, and it doesn't make sense that the pod wouldn't just auto-fire.
Well, I mean, neither can you, but nobody's judging you for having to have your mom hold your little penis just to be able to piss in a bowl. I'm not trying to be an asshole when I say this, but at this point, I'm beginning to question whether or not this dude has disorders. Again, I'm not judging, I've got my own. Feel free to roast me in the comments. But I don't think it's necessarily that complicated to keep firing while doing other fighting techniques. But onto why this works. While there's sections like hacks, flying missions, and the like that puts a greater emphasis on the arcade shooter aspect, it's still present during the core gameplay as 2B. And that's one of the game's charms. There's so much blended into one unique experience.
So yeah, what do we have so far? The story is incomprehensible. The characters, with the exception of the two main characters, are bland. There's like all this other shit. Once again, they introduced like there's a logic virus and there's humanity's like hidden out somewhere and there's like aliens and there's all these things like we're supposed to know about. And I kind of feel like it talks down to you. It's like, you're stupid. You don't understand how brilliant this is.
Let's break this down. First, he made the claim the game is overly complicated and makes no sense. Now he's going out and saying it talks down to the player. Pick one. Talking down would mean it'd require them to break down aspects they shouldn't in just a few sentences, where it'd feel like nothing else but them explaining to the viewer. You see how this doesn't add up?
And I'm going to address this because lots of people are probably going to bring this up. They'll be like, well, Arjun, you like Evangelion, and you've done all this like background and watched the series like 5 times and done all this research into the esoteric stuff in it. Yeah, but I don't pretend Evangelion is like mainstream in the way something like DBZ or Naruto is.
In Japan it is, considering Anno has become a massive name because of it, spawned multiple crossovers with Godzilla, and so on. Again, what the fuck does that even mean? So if Evangelion suddenly won multiple awards, which it fucking has, it'd suddenly be a garbage show? But just wait, it gets fucking better.
And if I had to fix the plot, I might make it about, like, the androids figuring out that humanity's gone and they have to exist for their own purpose. And they more and more start adopting aspects of humanity, like maybe art, maybe romantic attachments between the male and female androids, recreation. They just kind of start adopting human characteristics and kind of view that the way they can serve humanity is to kind of bring it back in the limited way they're able. But it doesn't really go in that direction.
Yo, is this person fucking retarded?
Yes.
Bro spent his whole review trashing the plot, then proceeds to fix it by literally summoning up what the game is already about. You can't make this shit up. It's not even ending 5 as he puts it. You can grasp that by your first playthrough as 2B.
Maybe it does in like ending 5, but once again, I don't really care about ending 5. It's if you're going to have multiple endings, I feel like it should be there as kind of a bonus. Like in Halo, where you get like the humorous scene of, I think it was Sergeant Johnson and the Elite hugging each other.
Here's the thing, the endings outside of 2B, 9S, and A2 usually are on that level of minor. A lot of them just takes doing something at the beginning, like running off as 9S, and the game pretty much goes on about how you're a selfish piece of shit who let everyone die.
So overall, review in a nutshell, Nier Automata is garbage, horrible game, one of the worst ones I've played, and I'm tired of people pretending it's not terrible.
Well, that's the end of that god-awful video. Good news is, we got no other to deconstruct here. Bad news is, the reason for that is I've lost enough brain cells consuming the retardation I forced myself to take for this video. I said I was gonna do more gaming content this year, and I was telling the truth. Don't worry, there'll be some reviews, currently working on one for Metal Hellsinger, and sometime this year, or maybe next, I want to review Nier Automata, because I've been playing it for the first time, and I'm almost finished with it. It's worthy of its masterful reputation in pretty much every way, unless I was to pick apart nitpicks like invisible walls or a rare glitch every game has. Anyway, that was it for this episode. Please comment your thoughts down below, and if you enjoyed it, smash that like button, share it around, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications to keep up to date on all my future content. Also check me out on social media and alt tech. Links are in the description down below. This is Gojin the Makai Phantom. Leaving the building.